Good afternoon. I'd first like to welcome my very courageous panel to doing a 3 p.m. plus session on a Friday, and trying to make sure that this audience does not fall asleep. We're going to try and see if we can mix it up a little bit in terms of the questions. The theme we're talking about today is mobile payments and POS. And if you don't know what a POS is, a point of sale, I recommend you go onto Wikipedia as you sit there on your mobile device and check it out, because we don't have enough time in less than 30 minutes to do a full education on the industry, but rather focus on the real issues and digging into some of the core fundamental challenges. I'm going to ask the panel to do a brief introduction, just their name, and also what their current role is at the companies they represent. And also then tell you something about themselves that you can't read about them on LinkedIn. So I guess, Jaymee Johnson, let's start with you.
Sure. I'm Jaymee Johnson. I'm the head of marketing at ISIS. A fact that you may not know about me from my LinkedIn profile would be, for baseball fans out there, I was once booed by the entirety of the outfield at Fenway Park. For very inadvertently ripping a home run ball out of the hands of a small child.
Jaymee, and just tell us briefly for the audience that may not know, what is ISIS and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so ISIS is developing a mobile wallet technology. Most of, if you are aware of us, it is probably, you have some sense of our founding. We are a joint venture of AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. So, and a collection of unlikely bedfellows. But we think it's that scale collectively that will allow us to solve a pretty tough problem, which is how to make NFC work at scale. And that's really the focus that we've been working on, and I personally have been working on for the better part of 5 years.
Okay, to the left of Jaymee, we've got Patrick Gauthier from PayPal. Patrick, what are you working on, and what's your current role there?
Well, first I have a dead mic. Dead mic. Thank you. So PayPal, I'm the general manager for a business unit called Emerging Services. Touches upon prepaid, media, mobile advertising and omni-channel advertising offers. So things that help us increase the value of the wallet for consumers and for merchants. And this is part and parcel of what Mark was talking about, which is our effort really to go beyond kind of one type of user experience into the everyday, which is very omni-channel 360 retailing. Something you might not know about me. Let's see. How long do we have? I am French, and when I started to work in the payments industry, everybody assumed that because I was French, I knew smart cards in and out. And the fact was, I didn't. But French and smart cards, kind of the predecessors of anything smart payment, thought, whatever we said, it's like, oh, it comes from the land of France, therefore it's got to be true. It helped me tremendously in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, so accent equals credibility. We got that. Okay, to his left, we've got José Resendiz from Intuit. José, what are you working on, and something about you?
Sure, thank you. I think we're going to be sharing the mic or something. If we don't get more mics, that'll be an interesting panel discussion. So I work at Intuit. I'm a director of product management in our financial institutions division. Intuit, if you haven't heard of the company name, you probably know us from TurboTax or QuickBooks. Quick and Mint are all financial software for small businesses and consumers. In particular, in the financial institutions division, we focus on creating online banking and mobile banking applications and solutions for financial institutions across the U.S. And so I spend my time working with different financial institutions across the country, implementing new solutions, creating new solutions for them, and expanding the services that they provide today. In terms of something about me other than work-related, I'm a huge superhero movie fan. I have an 11-year-old son that is a huge fan as well, and so lately a lot of conversations about Iron Man and the upcoming movies. So we can talk about that outside as well.
So high expectations on Iron Man. Yes. Okay, let's jump right into it. So I'm going to start with Jaymee. Jaymee, there was a conference actually today the 2013 NFC Solutions Summit in Burlingame. And we always used to joke around to say NFC is not for commerce. But the news headline coming out of that conference today was that the killer app for NFC may indeed not be payments. So it sounds like we almost had a prophecy that NFC was not for commerce. How important is NFC for what you're doing at ISAs, and how does it play into the proliferation of point of sale and mobile payments?
Sure. I guess a couple of points to make. When it comes to NFC, it's always been, whatever date, next year will always be the year of NFC, and that's been true every year for, probably the last decade for those folks that have been working around NFC. That's changing. By the end of this year, there'll be somewhere on the order of 40 to 50 million NFC phones in circulation in the U.S. That's a tipping point. There will be, for the most part, just about everything that comes off the factory floor at a terminal maker like Verifone or Ingenico will support NFC. And somewhere on the order of 25 of the top 100 merchants in the U.S. Already have contactless deployed. For the most part, NFC to this point in time has been a technology that's been hiding in plain sight. When you rattle off the types of companies that have contactless deployed nationwide, it's surprising for most folks. They've never had a reason to use it. That's changing now. Again, the handset that will be in their pocket will be NFC. They'll have a mobile wallet, which will support NFC and work off NFC. But I think the heart of your question is NFC is part of a mix, and I think the promise of a mobile wallet is really part of a mix. If you were to bring the promise of just payment, of a form factor replacement, of a tap instead of a swipe, I think that's interesting to consumers, but it won't have the mass market appeal of the promise of a mobile wallet, which is the ability to take everything that today is in your leather wallet or purse, put it all on your phone so that it's always with you, so that you always have the value of a savings or the value of an offer, and to seamlessly pass that to the point of sale with a simple tap of your phone. That is a big idea for consumers. And so I think that the year, on some level, this may finally be the year of NFC. And certainly we want to be a part of that, and we're doing everything that we can to drive it.
Peter, can I bring some controversy to this?
Please, if you want.
You said, wake up people. I'll say, so in spirit of full disclosure, I started working on an NFC when I was young, in early 2004. NFC just celebrated 10 years. It was officially Christian, NFC, by the way, Near Field Communication, very sexy name. It was Christian in September 2002. Okay, why am I saying this? What has happened in the last 11 years? Smartphones, touchscreens, GPS, cameras, accelerometers, app stores.
Location.
Am I missing anything? So the point is, NFC was conceived at a time, at a day, and an age when smartphones did not exist, when you still had the clams. And the imagination that went through the creation of NFC was limited to the type of transactions you did at the time, which was swipe a card at the point of sale. 10 years later, this is not where commerce is going. So you have two ways of looking at an NFC. And I'm sorry I have to take a swipe at you, Jaymee. You have one that says, hey, we're going to take the wallet and we're going to put it into the phone. Fantastic. This is a great idea. If you believe in that, then you believe that the web was about taking what was published on a piece of paper and putting it on a screen. And that, of course, is not what happened. The web is about personalization, it's about interaction, it's about engagement. If NFC is limited to just something at the point of sale versus creating new use cases, new flows like what Mark was talking about, what we are doing is missing the opportunity of leveraging mobile to deliver value to consumers and merchants. NFC has been a solution looking for problem for 10 years because it lacks the imagination of bringing the future of commerce forth.
So let's actually step off, permit me, José, to step off NFC, because it looks like we should not care that much about it. And to carry on the theme, what innovation have you seen, José, in the last 24 months in terms of payments and point of sale that is indeed changing the landscape we talked about location, cameras, accelerometers, etc. What is changing the landscape in mobile POS and payments?
Good question, and actually I was just to build on what you guys were saying, because I think you were saying something similar around the fact that it's not about the technology itself that just now lets you tap instead of swipe, as you said, Jaymee, but it's more about the value that's created around it. It's more about what comes with the personalization. It's what comes with the leverage of data that's available on all the transactions that folks have, and tying that back to the act of making a payment. I think that's where the value is. I think it's still early in terms of new innovations that are out in market around this. I think there's a lot of ideas and a lot of different concepts out there, but I'll give you an example of what could be possible. Something that we're working on, or that we've worked on and launched for financial institutions, is the notion of, and you've seen this a lot of merchant rewards or offers. Obviously things like big things like what you might find on Groupon. But this is the notion. Bank of America just rolled this out as well, of tying offers for consumers made available by merchants directly tied to the transactions that somebody has made. So it's specifically tied to your purchasing behaviors. That's something that you're going to value. It's not going to be spam. It's all been launched online. I think the opportunities to launch it on mobile, the opportunities to use geolocation, as you mentioned, to tie it back to when you're at that retailer, knowing that you have this offer, that's something that's valuable to you, and then tying the payment to it as well. So it's really completing the whole flow, the whole workflow that you have, but it's tied to something that's really meaningful to you. It's tied to something that you normally would have already done anyways, which is a purchase at a place that you usually go to. I think that's just one example of some of the things that could be capable or available in the near future. It's tying the value around the act of the payment more so than the technology for the payment itself.
Okay, so let's hit back a little bit, because Jaymee just took one on the chin. How about Intuit and PayPal taking one? Square was first to launch with the swipe reader, right, on the mobile phone, at least in terms of mainstream consumer awareness. It was only a couple of months later both your companies launched a competitive product. So one would argue that the barrier to entry is limited, and really that all that's happened is that we've got a smarter mousetrap for the same problem. Are we really innovating here, or are we just cannibalizing existing players and market share with a sexy new way of doing things? Is there innovation here or just replication?
I would say that there's a lot of room for more innovation than what we have done. With the solution, our Go Payment solution, I think we've been iterating and improving the experience itself. It has a lot to do. So I think in one of the chats earlier, somebody was talking about a first use experience. Has a lot to do with the kind of adoption that you get. And I think Square did a really good job at that first use experience for merchants, and started creating the kind of volume that ultimately creates this sort of virtuous circle of network of merchants and using this, and then more people leveraging that. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I think what we've created from a Go Payment perspective begins to scratch at that. The opportunity for us is tying it back to other pieces of the flow that merchants use. In our case, into QuickBooks, into the current point of sale solutions that they have, so that it's more, I think somebody else was mentioning earlier, it's more than just your mobile device, it's all devices that you're using and having that interconnected.
Patrick, your views, and also how are you going to beat the competition?
Yeah, it's fair we take one in the chin too. Look, there's no denying Square did something that was unique, right? They took a device and made it simple to do what up to now was the domain of an arcane domain of specialists, right? And then I worked in the point of sale industry for a while, and it's like embedded device, security, this and that. And they took a mobile phone that everybody said is not BlackBerry, therefore not safe, and they made it into a payment device, and they got a spat into Verifone about security, and okay, well, we know who the man standing is. So innovation is not always about technology for the sake of technology. Often innovation can be about life cycle, about branding, about experience, about distribution places. How do you get it? From a store, or do you have to go and wait in line into a bank? So let's give credit to Square to sort of inventing ways to imagine access to electronic payment, especially for smaller merchants, that was novel, no doubt about it. Our perspective, however, goes a little bit beyond this. I think first, our view is it's not about mobile, as in the little 4-inch device. It's about connected devices. And I totally agree with you, Jose, when you say, let's think about the data and so on. Earlier on and in the room next door, it's about cloud and big data and so on. Imagine what you can do for a small or medium merchant when you start to give him a connected device, right? And so yes, you take the payment transaction, by the way, it can be a card, by the way, you can do other things and swipe. You can take a picture of a check, which PayPal was the first to introduce. You can even take in cash, and you can even take in, proximity payment without tap, just by virtue of the fact that the two people are together. But you can do so much more, because once you're connected to the cloud for a small medium merchant, you can allow them to personalize the experience. You can allow them to manage their inventory holistically. You can allow them to have multi-channel strategies. Through Magento, we can put an SMB that never had a website online in less than a day, right? Then, of course, they have to manage their inventory, their pricing, etc. All of this has to be made simple. You make it simple when you connect them to a common base of information data. That's what those devices, the promises of those devices are for small and medium merchants. That's why we're working with the likes of the Airplays, etc. We'll make it, slightly bigger than an iPhone, right? Because different merchant will have different needs.
Jaymee, hello. So Jaymee, if we switch back to you, guy on the sound stage, you must just keep an eye on us because we're swapping mics. Okay, so Jaymee, going back to you. We heard on the call, there's two approaches, right? Bring mobile to the POS, which is NFC, chip and pin, and kind of some of the things you're doing, or bring POS to the mobile, which is kind of Square, PayPal. Can you talk to me about ISIS's perspective on the proliferation of point of sale? And is it a some win, some lose? Are there convergence taking place here? How do you navigate these different approaches to solving a similar problem?
Yeah, so it's helpful to set some context for the size of the pie. In the U.S., there are roughly $4 trillion spent consumer spending. About $3.5 trillion of that, I think, is at a physical point of sale. And somewhere on the order of $500 billion is spent at a virtual point of sale online or other. So I guess to the heart of your question, Peter, is the virtue of what Square has done is they have brought electronic payments to a part of the market that was previously excluded. If you ran a taco truck previously, it was a major setback and liability to be excluded from the electronic payment system. So, part of the problem that they've solved was a real intangible one, where, if I'm a taco truck owner, this increases the viability of my business. But as we think about the core of Peter's question, which is opportunity size and an ability to innovate either on the on the form factor side, which is largely what ISIS has done, or on the acceptance side, which is what folks like Square have done. For us, it's about the size of the pie. It's somewhere on the order of 7 or 8 times larger to innovate at the point of sale. The reality is that's just a big pie. And so if you can bring value there to a consumer, and you can do so in a way, part of the complexity there is it is bigger, which means you have many more players, which means sort of calibrating and getting the ecosystem right is that much harder. But to a point that Patrick made early on is, he said, hey, look, I've been working on NFC for years. What has allowed NFC to take off is not a eureka moment in a lab. That happened, to Patrick's point, 10 years ago. But rather, it's the business system that goes around it. And that's really what ISIS has done, and others like us have done. It's the ability to bring together consumers at scale on the device side acceptance together at scale. There are hundreds of thousands of acceptance points in the US, and that march onward is really beginning to accelerate now as you're having devices enter the market. Industries like transit are going contactless, and so that mix is right. And so I see opportunities for folks that are innovating on the form factor side, like someone like ISIS, and there are opportunities that are there on the acceptance side for folks like Square. The issue, I think, just comes down to the size of the pie, and there will be success on both.
So, Jaymee, don't mean to rip that out of your hands. Patrick, agree, disagree? Where are you on all of this?
So first of all, anybody who's worked for any time on innovation knows that what matters is not where the puck was yesterday, but where the puck is going to be tomorrow. So if we measured the progress we needed to make in industry based on how payments were made, we'd have no credit card because there was once upon a time when checks and cash dominated. We'd have no debit card because there was once upon a time when the only form of plastic was credit. There would be no prepaid card because there was once upon a time when debit was the only way to use cash-ready funds. And I could go on and on and on like this. So you have to sort of look at where the opportunities lies ahead. Often it is not in the reinvention of something that is more or less working fine. It's in creating new use cases, new opportunities where there were none. So, look, I worked not just on NFC. I actually launched contactless in the US in 2005. By 2009, about 25% of the devices in the US were NFC enabled, contactless enabled. About same in terms of number of cards were. By that measure, we should have had a sizable amount of transactions where people would tap. The fact of the matter is, it was less than 0.01%. We did not solve a problem, therefore consumers did not change their behavior. It's as simple as that. So, where I think we're going to see innovation is in the enablement of new types of transactions, right? It's the simple as the soccer mom who now, instead of collecting cash and checks and having to go deposit it and deal with that, now just takes a swipe. It's the small merchants who can, indeed on this taco truck not to be paying 7 or 9% to a bank when they could get a merchant account. Right, and therefore satisfy the consumers that come and possibly even do order ahead. It's even the media merchant who wants to put up a pop-up store, right? And rather than having to lug around a big cash register and so on, want to have something that is highly mobile, highly easy to deploy. It could go on and on and on. The future of commerce is not, as Yogi Berra used to be, the future is not what it used to be. Right? The future is different from what the past was. That's what innovation is about. Now, having said that, there is something to be said about NFC. NFC has two forms. There's the really complicated one, and there's the simple one. The complicated one, secure element, all that stuff, and the simple one is peer-to-peer. When you see advertising about media exchange, it's peer-to-peer. It's dead simple. It goes in a place where there's no other alternative. That will take off. But trying to reproduce POS,
Patrick, I'm getting the signal. One sentence. We're going to start with you, José. Who are the winners and who are the losers in the next 12 months?
Who are the winners and the losers in the next 12 months? I'm going to build on what Patrick said. It's going to be the folks that are actually building more value around the experience versus just the payment piece itself.
Okay, we'll take that. Patrick, winners and losers?
I think the winners and losers are going to be the consumers and the merchants. There's so many new use cases that they're able to go after. We see the volume exploding, as an indication of that. And so for me, those are the winners and losers.
Okay, merchants losers, consumers winners, are you saying?
No, both
winners?
consumers and merchants. They're able to transact in ways that 12 or 18 or 36 months from now, ago they were not able to.
Jaymee.
Yeah, I will violate one of the core principles of a contentious panel and actually agree with the answer before me. I think that, to Patrick's point, there is so much innovation happening on both sides of the transaction that consumers are winning. They are now, and they will continue to do as far out as we can see.
Please give the panel a hand. Thank you.